Hello and welcome to Mostly Vintage Cameras. This is a Solarcan, and regular viewers to the channel may recall that back in June we took a look at this before I badly bolted it to the side of my house. So it's been up there 3 months now. Today is September 24th, so it's been attached to my drain pipe in the vertical orientation between the solstice, I beg your pardon, in June, and today, which is the 24th of September. Yesterday was the autumnal equinox, when the sun is directly over the equator, meaning night and day are of equal length, or daylight and night time are of equal length. So today is the day that we crack this open with a not very good quality tin opener. Now, paper inside the Solarcan is still sensitive to light, so I obviously can't do this under the bright video light. So I'm going to try using a red LED torch, but quite frankly, if I weren't videoing this, I would be doing this in pitch blackness. If you've got a Solarcan or you've made a DIY one, such as the ones we looked at back in June when I posted the video then, you might want to have a practice with the tin opener in the darkness on a tin of soup or something first. But anyway, let's turn the red light on and turn the main light off, so it's going to go very peculiar, the vision, for a moment. So that's about as good as it's going to get for the time being. Now when we open the Solarcan, we're going to put the paper onto a flatbed scanner, and we need to do that in pretty short order. We can't be hanging around because we don't want to degrade the image on the paper. It's a latent image. We're not going to develop it as such, so keeping it in the dark and getting it on the flatbed scanner in a timely manner very quickly are key to this. But let's go ahead with the tin opener, see what sort of a fist we can make of this. And already I'm running into problems. Okay, that's the lid off. You want to be careful not to cut yourself on any sharp edges, although with these modern tin openers there shouldn't be any sharp edges. And let's try and fish out this bit of paper. Now, you've probably noticed that the can itself is quite badly dented. As I mentioned earlier, I did make a bit of a mess of attaching it to the downpipe. Okay, let's have a quick look. Well, we've got something, so I'm going to fold that up quickly, pop it back in there. Now obviously that lid isn't going to go back on there as such, so bit of tin foil, lid on there. Oh, just dropped it on the floor. I'm going to put one of these end caps on that, wrong caliber end cap, that will have to do. Okay, so now I'm going to dash upstairs where the computer is with the flatbed scanner, scan the image, and then we'll take a look at the result. So bear with me. Okay, so I'm back from scanning the image, and I'm pleased to say there is an image. The original piece of paper I've put back in the tin can, sealed the tin can as best I can, and popped it back in the original retail carton. Now I've got a couple of options here. I can get a new box of paper, and if you saw my video in June, it was my intent to make a DIY version of this, but I couldn't find my box of photographic printing paper. Nonetheless, you could go and buy a box of paper and reuse the Solarcan and find a way of sealing the end of the can, as you saw perhaps on the video in June. And certainly I'll be revisiting that and the whole subject of pinhole photography in the future. But for now, my latent image captured by the Solarcan is back inside the box, but it is a latent image. It's not developed and fixed like a traditional photograph, and you have to accept that it is transient in nature. It is effectively sacrificial, and it's not going to last forever. It's going to fade and disappear. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to turn black or turn white. I suspect it will turn black over time. How much time that will take will depend on how you store it. This is reasonably well protected, so I'm thinking it'll last quite a long time. I'm not too worried because the real end product is of course the scan. So let's just take a quick look at the instruction book, and again, those viewers that saw the video back in June, I'll link it at the end of this one and down below, you might be familiar with these instructions. This is the relevant page. As you can see, open with tin can, retrieve the exposed paper from inside the Solarcan and quickly place it face down onto the scanner in place of your guide paper to begin a high-res scan. They're talking about a guide paper because they recommend doing a test run with your flatbed scanner and getting it set up for a 5x7 page and making sure everything's working, because you don't want to be scanning and rescanning the latent image from the camera, because you'll destroy it essentially. Once scanning is finished, immediately return the paper to the Solarcan and cover. As scanners use light, you'll only be able to do this process a few times before your image is unusable. And then lastly on this page, using basic photo editing software. Now I used an online service called Photop, which I find to be actually quite good. Use it for all sorts of things when I want to do a quick on-the-fly photo edit from basically any old computer. It's free. It does pop up adverts and things, but that's okay, and did everything I needed to do. You'll see it says invert the image. That will give you a positive image. The image as it comes out of the camera is a negative. Further improvements you can using the curves tool. Now you can spend the rest of your life learning how to edit photographs. Bit of simple S-curve. That's basically all I did with mine. So here is the scan as it came out of the camera. Now inverted, and some simple curves added to make a colour image. I have to say I'm a little surprised at just how much detail this has captured. Quite a lot of detail from the street is in this image. If you look in the bottom and the middle, you can just about make up the picket fence on my garden. There is some evidence of car headlights coming down the street, because it is a residential street. People drive up and down it at all times, although that's not as significant as I thought it might have been. And you can clearly see the rooftops of the houses opposite. Now, I don't think this image has got any personally identifiable information on it, so I'm happy to share it with you, but it is just a regular street scene at the end of the day. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the little dot in the bottom left corner. There's some strange thing going on there. But when we look at the actual track of the sun, this is the main meat of the subject, we can see the sun actually leaves the frame of view. It disappears. So in June the camera should have been angled further up, and in actual fact Sam at Solarcan did say that I should angle the camera to about 62 degrees, I think he said, but that wasn't really practical. I wanted to get the camera up on the equinox, I beg your pardon, on the solstice, so I didn't angle it. I didn't devise some method of doing so. If I do this again, and I almost certainly will, then I'll take that sort of thing into account. And so you can see in the height of summer in June, the sun's got the longest track, it's going the highest in the sky, and then as the 3 months, and this is only a 3-month exposure, as the months roll on, the sun goes further and further down on the horizon. Now I say it's only a 3-month exposure. This is actually a personal record for me. This is the longest exposure I've ever produced for a photograph. That being said, Solarcan images, or solagraphs as they're called, can be run for several months or even a year, even longer if you wanted to. It just depends on what it is you're trying to do. This for me is as much a product review as it is an interesting image capture. I have to say I'm absolutely delighted with the result. It's much better than I'd anticipated, given frankly how lackadaisically I'd attached it to the side of the house and how much I just ignored it, and just ignoring it is exactly the right thing to do when you're making your solargraph. So anyway, I've also done a black and white adjustment, and this is more a traditional kind of pinhole looking image. So yeah, I quite like the blue one. You could use the imaging software to make it any colour you wanted, but this seems to be the most popular choice. So what do I think of the Solarcan? Well, you can probably tell I'm rather enamoured of it. I think it's an excellent pinhole camera. I think it's a very easy way to get into alternate photography without having to buy, a box of photographic paper. A lot of people wouldn't know where to go to find photographic paper, although it's readily available. So it's easily accessible, it's easy to do, the results are great, it requires surprisingly little effort apart from the wobbling around on a stepladder to put it on your downpipe. Obviously if you have children, let's say 8 to 13-year-old children, there's quite an educational element to this. Not only are you learning a little bit about physics, about the nature of the world and the sky and astronomy, you're also learning a little bit of patience. This is something that you can't do, well, you could in principle do a one-day exposure, but it's not in principle something you'll do for a short period of time. So you're going to buy this thing, you're going to work with the children to put it up on the side of your house. Don't have children climbing step ladders, please. And then you're going to, some months later, see the results. And you're also going to learn a little bit about computer science, about preparing images for scanning, level adjustments. Now you might feel that 8 to 13-year-olds know more about computers than you do, but this is actually practical, real-life skills and not, saving zombies or shooting peaches or whatever it is people do on computer games. So yeah, educational, relatively inexpensive, easy accessible, and even if you don't have children, I think this is a splendid little thing to have a little play around with, and a great introduction to alternate processes, and even in a sense early photography. At the starting of photography, the images weren't fixed, they weren't permanent in that sense. So there we have it. Happy equinox. Don't forget, on the 29th of October the clocks go back, and thank you for watching. I do appreciate it.